As humans, we have this capacity for curiosity and love,
Very clever.
which you forget we have until you have children.
How are you? Good.
Stick it out, stick it out.
I think my father always had an emotional distance to him.
The bear's coming!
And to be honest, I got away with not having to think about that until I became the father of two beautiful boys.
Ali is scared of monsters too.
And suddenly I started thinking a lot again about what a father is. So one of the things that I want to do is make sure that I spend lots of time with you guys.
Why?
Because I grew up with a dad who wasn't around much. I was the only child of my mother and father. My parents are Tamil Sri Lankans, originally from the very north of the country. My mother is a Bharatanatyam dancer. She toured the world as a child prodigy. You look so young.
I was very young. I think I was 20 or 21 or something.
My father, in contrast to my mother, I think wanted the quiet life.
So like this, my aunt, from day one, she felt this marriage would never work, and you could see that in her face.
Yeah.
And she was very worried about this marriage because she adored me.
See it in her eyes. When my great-grandfather started working in politics, we came to Colombo. And that's where we were until we left when war broke out in 1983. I remember my father mostly being in a room full of books and not talking to him much. He used to work at IBM.
What's RVM?
You know the kinds of computers we have now. Upapa was part of the people who were working on those first computers.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Did he enjoy that?
I think he loved it more than anything else, yeah. I was 8 years old when my parents divorced. My father found a little apartment in Strathfield, and I used to visit him there every Sunday, and I have really good memories about that time. One weekend I was calling to meet him on a Sunday and he didn't answer the phone. And he never answered the phone again. And I'd actually given up on seeing him again.
That's sad.
Yeah, it is sad. And it was so abrupt, the cutting off. He missed out on my high school years. He missed out on seeing me fall in love. He missed out on the return I made back to my roots and my culture. After 20 years or so, an uncle came and visited me here. This is before you were born. And he gave me a piece of paper and it had an address on it, which is where Upapa was living. And he was only one suburb away. And at the time, I didn't know this, but actually that uncle had found Upapa in a park with a very long beard and really dirty clothes. And Upapa had become someone who had nowhere to live. And this man had found him a little place to live. And I can't remember how many times I went to that door and knocked on it. Eventually, he opened the door and he acted like nothing had happened. But Upapa, he found it hard to talk about his hard times.
I have a feeling that the feeling that people push down the most is sadness.
What makes you say that?
I feel like people do.
I think that's true, buddy. He lost his job in the dot-com bubble burst, never really picked up another job again. My guess is that my father must have made a promise to himself to only reconnect with me when he was someone he thought was worthy of having a son.
When did you start realizing he had Parkinson's? What's Parkinson's?
It affects your brain. With Upapa, it made his muscles become very stiff.
He couldn't really chew.
No, he found it very hard to chew. We'd had a few good years together, and I felt like I was only at the beginning of the journey of trying to pull down his walls. I thought we had decades ahead of us. And getting that diagnosis meant that that would never happen. Trying to manage his denial of it. That was just as hard as taking care of him. One day, I got a call from a doctor in a Western Sydney hospital who was close to dying at that point. And I told him, we think it's impossible that you'll be able to speak or eat again or stand up. Do you want that kind of life? And he had said, yes.
Appa, do you remember the
We honoured his wishes, but he never spoke or moved properly again.
Sri Lanka?
And for 3 years he lived like that. Soon before he died, I don't think I'd ever looked into my father's eyes properly his whole life. And he and I just stared at each other for what felt like an infinity of time. He knew that I finally saw him as my father, and I was okay with being his son. And we got to be in that place together before he stopped breathing. If I hadn't reconnected with my father would have been one of those people who died and wasn't discovered for months. And I was so proud of us that wasn't the future we'd picked. When Papa got really sad, he pushed that sadness down and he wasn't able to see anyone. What are we going to do when we have sad times in our life?
Talk about it.
Yeah.
They actually ended up turning out good-ish and bad-ish.
Sometimes goodish and baddish is as good as life gets.